Yes? Okay, hello, dear colleagues. Good evening to everyone there. So we are going to start with our class for today. Unfortunately, it's our last day of classes, so we are going to review actually topics that we have been doing during these 2 weeks. And at the end of the class, we are going to have like 10 minutes or 15 minutes to answer any possible questions that you may have. Okay? So can you hear me well? Are you ready? Can you hear me well? Yes? Okay, so if you are able to hear me, we are going to start with our lesson class, our class for today. And here we are going to talk about some activities that you can use during the practice of the new grammatical structure and vocabulary. Okay? So the first one is, this is something that we have studied before. Do you remember this kind of techniques that you can use? That is drills, okay? And as you know, drills has different activities or different type of drills. Drill is a structure that you can show to your students, and your students follow the same. Okay, so one of the drills that we have studied during this short course was repetition drills. So repetition drills means this is something that we usually do. You make your students repeat all the time words, sentences, phrases, things like that. Here, let me show you an example. Here it says the teacher is cold outside, so the students are going to repeat the same. It's cold outside. Then the teacher will say, it's warm outside, and the students will say, it's warm outside. So in these repetition drills, the students repeat exactly what the teacher says. Okay? So that's repetition, in other words. Repetition not only of words, but also with phrases or sentences. You use this kind of activities just to put emphasis on pronunciation, or maybe you want to put emphasis on intonation of some sentences. Okay? So that's repetition drills, right? The next one that we have today in class, that is substitution drills. Do you remember this kind of drills? So substitution drills are more interactive than repetition drills. Yes, because when you have repetition drills, it's just mechanical because the students are just repeating what you are saying. They are not producing anything. They are just repeating. But in substitution drills, that's the opposite part. Here is more interactive. What does it mean? Here the students have the opportunity to practice in changing maybe a word or a structure in response to a prompt. So here they change something. So it's more meaningful than just repeating the same things. Okay? So for example, here it says, teacher, you are a student, aren't you? So the farmer, then you say farmer. So students are going to say, you're a farmer, aren't you? So the students are not repeating the exact words that you say. So they are changing, instead of using student, they are using farmer. And the teacher is continuing here. You are a farmer, aren't you? Accountant, sorry. And the students are going to say, you're an accountant, aren't you? So here they are making some changes, not in all the phrases, but in some words, especially one or two words in a statement. That's substitution. When you change a word or maybe a phrase in a sentence. Not everything. You just change something. Okay? So do you have any questions about repetition or substitution drills? Do you realize the difference between them? No problem? Okay, that's very clear. Right, so try to remember, please, because most of the time we have this kind of questions in the national exam. So try to remember the difference, okay? So let's go to the next one. Here we have an example of a mechanical substitution drill using a phrase in italics. For example, the teacher says, "Where were you born? Can you tell me, was your husband?" So the students are going to make some changes in the question that the teacher said. So now the students are going to say, "Where was your husband born?" Then the teacher, "Where was your husband born? Can you tell me, was he?" So it means that they have to change. Instead of saying your husband, they will use was he. So the students are going to say, "Where was he born?" So the teacher is going to say, "Where was he born? Can you tell me, was your daughter?" So instead of was he, the students are going to use was your daughter. So the students will say, "Where was your daughter born?" And the teacher will say, "Where was your daughter born? Can you tell me?" And so on. You know? So here, that's a mechanical substitution drill, but at least the students are changing the words. So I think it's more interesting, it's more dynamic that just repeating the same things, you know? So remember that here Roxana said, could you explain again, please? Okay, we have been studying repetition drills. That means when the teacher just make students repeat phrases after him or her. And substitution drills means when you just change a word or a phrase, something from a short statement. You change something only, okay, as you can see here now in the example. That's the big difference, okay? So the next one, that is transformation drills. So I think it's a little more difficult than just substitution drills, okay? So here in transformation drills involve changing the structure of a sentence. You don't change just one word. You change the structure itself. For example, here it says, a statement to a question. "I like ice cream." One student says that. So maybe you change that structure, that positive structure, into a question. So you will say, "Do you like ice cream?" So it means the structure is different. In that case, it means transformation. Another one, "I'm going shopping." That's present continuous. So maybe you want to use the past simple. So instead of saying, "I'm going shopping," you will say, "Yesterday I went shopping." So in that case, you transform, the statement in the past simple. So that's transformation. You don't change just one word. You change even the structure and even the tense. So it's more difficult. That's transformation. Another one, from active to passive. The teacher gave them the answers. So the other person or student will say, they were given the answers by the teacher. So in this case, you are changing from from active to passive voice. That's transformation. Maybe when you use from singular to plural as well, that is transformation because it's not the same. So you will say, the woman sings well, so maybe somebody else will say, the women sing well. Okay? That's transformation. Now, let's review. We have studied repetition, substitution, and transformation drills. What are the differences among them? Remember, repetition is just a mechanical activity. They will repeat after the teacher. They will repeat exactly what the teacher say in the lesson, or maybe in the conversation, or maybe in the class. Okay? Substitution drills, it means when you change just maybe a word or maybe a short phrase from the sentence, but the structure will remain the same. But transformation means when you change everything. If you have maybe positive, you can use negative. If you have a positive statement, you can use questions, maybe from present to past, maybe from singular to plural, and so on. In that case, you mean transformation drills. Okay? Are they clear to you? Do you have any questions about drills? No questions? Is it clear? Very nice. So if you don't have any questions about this part, let's continue with the next part. Let me show you here an example of a meaningful drill. Okay? So here it says, the teacher is going to say, I get tired of doing the same thing every day. I've always wanted to be a pilot. So student one will say, how exciting. I'd rather be a stunt person in the movies. Do you remember a stunt person is a famous person in the movies? A stunt person is like a person who participates in the movie, like the actor, something like that. And a student two will say, that's too exciting for me. I'd rather be a movie star. The next student will say, not me, maybe this is in negative. I'd rather be a famous writer. So you see, here I think it's the best way to use drills because the students are using their own ideas, they are using their own examples, so the activity will be more meaningful than just making them repeat the same thing. So maybe at the very beginning you can make students repeat because repetition is very important, okay? But I think that little by little you have to give your students more things, not only repeating. They need to have the opportunity to, to produce something. So for them, of course, it's going to be more meaningful if they feel more free, okay, to express what they think, as you can see here, because everybody's talking about things that they would like to be, even the teacher, so it's more meaningful, right? That's an example of a drill, a meaningful drill, okay? So let's continue now with the next, we can say technique that you can use. Okay, especially when you want to teach grammar and vocabulary. That's a very common one. That is dictation. Even when we learn Spanish, we used to have dictation in class, right? So it's the same here. That's a second language. So it means that dictation is very important as well. Not every class, but I think it's very important, especially when they are, beginner. They need to learn many words, so dictation is a good exercise for them. So dictation refers to a person reading some text aloud, and the listener or listeners can write down what is saying, what is being said, sorry. Okay? For example, if you are teaching occupations and jobs, so maybe they can get a piece of paper and you can dictate the words and they have to write. Or maybe you can spell when they are learning the alphabet, so you can spell letter by letter in order to make a word. So that's another kind of dictation that you can use with your students. So you can use the dictation in any level, even in primary school, even in high school, right? And of course, you don't need to prepare anything because for dictation, they just need a piece of paper. They need to write their names on it, and you can just start dictating words and they can start writing. Okay? So I think that dictation is really, really important, especially when you want to make students remember words, especially when you are learning or when you are teaching vocabulary. But remember that dictation also helps students to improve their listening skills because they need to listen to the teacher. It's not just the written part. They need to listen carefully to what the teacher is saying in order to be written in a piece of paper. So for dictation, if you use dictation in class, you can improve your listening, your reading, and your writing skill. Okay? So, any questions about dictation? No questions? Okay, so if you don't have any questions about dictation, now let's go to an example of a dictation. For example, the teacher says, group 1, apple, group 2, potato. So for example, in this activity, you can make students work in pairs. One student belongs to group number 1 and the other student belongs to group number 2. So maybe you can divide that dictation. In order to avoid, I'm sorry, Rosa, I don't understand your question. Teacher, for the 3 activities, so what do you mean? Okay, so if you use dictation, of course, as I said before, you can improve your listening because you need to listen to the teacher. You can improve your writing skill because you remember you have to write letter by letter in order to make a word. And of course, the reading skill as well because you need to read what you are writing, you know? Here, maybe in the dictation, you are not improving your speaking because you are not producing anything. Right? You are just writing, you are listening and writing and checking spelling. So while you are checking spelling means that you are reading. So that's a good way to improve your reading skills as well. Okay? So as I was telling you about dictation, for example, one of the ways that you can use dictation with your students in order to avoid cheating, because most of the time, you know, we have cheaters students in classroom. So you can divide, okay, you can put the students in pairs. So one student is going to be A, or one student is going to belong to group number 1, and the second student can belong to group number 2. So maybe you will say, group number 1, so it means all the students who belong to group number 1, they will start writing. When the teacher says group number 2, just the students who belong to group number 2, they will write. You see? So in that way, the students that are working in pairs are going to write different things, as you see here in the example. The teacher says group number 1, apple. So student 1 is going to write apple. Group number 2 is the other student who is next to student 1. Potato. And you continue. Group number 1, cucumber. Group number 2, carrot. So the students only write the words given for their group. So if they belong to group number 1, they will just write words that belong to group number 1. And it's the same thing for group number 2. So in this case, you avoid cheating, and then maybe the students are going to help each other because they are going to check what they have written. So if they have any mistakes, maybe they can help and they can correct them. Yes, this is a good way of using dictation because, you know, a traditional dictation is, okay, get a piece of paper. So the teacher is with the book and the teacher starts saying the words aloud and the students are just writing. That's the traditional one. But we need to change this kind of activities. As I told you, is more interesting if you use this kind of activities with your students. Okay? So do you have any questions about dictations? No questions? No? Okay, Rosa says no. Anybody else? No questions about dictation? Okay, hello, Joanna. Nice to see you online here with us. Okay, so if you don't have any questions about dictation, now let's go to our next part for today's class. And this is, I think that this is like an approach, okay? That the name of this activity or the name of this approach is problem solving. What does it mean? So please, here I want you to pay a lot of attention because maybe this is one of the new topics. Or maybe you have done that with your students, but it's very important to understand how it works. Okay? So the 6-step problem solving process is an easy approach to dealing with issues and problems that face students. So in other words, the teacher is going to bring a situation. It can be an issue or a problem, and the students in their groups, they need to find out the best solution. Okay? So it has different steps. Actually, it has like 6 steps. So at the very beginning, you have to define the problem. You have to bring a topic to the students. Okay? Once the students have the topic, understand what the problem is, they can start working in groups. So you can make them work in groups. So they will start brainstorming different solutions, not only just one, different ones. Okay, once you have different kind of possible solutions, you have to pick up the most effective solution for the problem that you have to face. That's number 3, step number 3. Once you choose the right solution for the problem that you are facing, you need to check, or maybe you need to improve the solution, or maybe you need to include something else to make the solution more effective. Once you have everything ready, you can present the solution to the whole class. You know, this is the correct, we can say, cycle or steps that you need to follow with your students if you want to use a problem-solving activity. First, you have to show the problem. Then the students have to work in groups and they need to bring, okay, different ideas about possible solutions. After that, they have to choose the best one. Then they have to improve it. Maybe they need to include something else. Finally, they have the final result and they have to make the presentation of the possible solution that they consider the most effective, right? That's the idea, that's the cycle. Do you have any questions about problem solving? No? Okay, I will show you an example in the next slide to make it clearer, right? Examples of a problem solving approach. Here, Ricardo wants to make his students work in a project to reduce garbage on the streets of Chiclayo. That's the problem. We are in the first step. He makes them work in groups. So maybe you will introduce the topic by showing some pictures or by showing maybe a reading activity with a problem that we are having. In this case, a lot of garbage in Chiclayo. Then you make students work in groups. First, the students need to identify what the problem is. Yes, in this case, what the problem is, the garbage, okay, on the streets of Chiclayo. That's the problem. Then they have to brainstorm different possible solutions for the problem, different ideas, okay? So maybe they will start just saying some words, okay? But at least they need to find out some possible solutions. After that, they have to choose the best one, okay, for their problem. Next, they have to check if the chosen solution is the best one. Or maybe they need to implement something. Maybe you need to include something else. And finally, you have to make the presentation of the solution to the whole class. So at the end, you will find out a solution for the problem presented by the teacher. So that's the idea of a problem-solving approach. To make students work together, to change different ideas, to learn from each other, and to find out the best solution for the problem that they have. So in this kind of activities, you know, the students need to have a level of English. They need to know English, okay, at least something, the basic one, because they need to talk, they need to interact each other. So maybe you can use this kind of approach with the students of the 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade of high school. And of course, this kind of approach makes students think critically. They make students think in a critical way, right? So any questions about a problem-solving approach? It's not only for projects, but remember that you need to present a problem, okay? You need to present a problem to your students and they need to find out a solution for that problem. So you can present that in a project. Maybe they can present just not only in the project, maybe they just need to talk and they need to speak maybe in front of the class, like, you know, like a conversation part, something like that. It's not only used in projects, but also in other kind of activities. The most important is that you have to present a clear problem and they need to find out possible solutions. And at the end, they have to decide the best one in order to solve the problem. Okay, Merlin? Any other questions? Okay, no more questions about problem-solving approach? No? No? Okay, so if you don't have any questions, let's go to the next one. This is an activity that we have been talking before. That is information gap activities. So remember that we can use information gap activities to make students speak and make students complete some tasks. Okay, and of course, these kind of activities are used for improving students' vocabulary and grammar as well. So information gap activities require students to communicate with each other to solve a problem or to complete a task. For example, one kind of information gap activities can be picture dictations. So maybe one student is showing the picture and the other student has to write, okay, the word that the picture shows. This is a good way to use information gap activities. Another one is activities that use graphic organizers to record and analyze information. Activities that use visual prompts and oral clues with pieces of papers So you have one part of the information and student A has the other part and student B has the other part. So you need to talk in order to complete the missing information that you both have. Or another kind of information that activities is called Mingle Activities. What does Mingle Activities mean? So it means you use this kind of activities when students start walking around the classroom and talk to each other. So when they start talking to each other, in that case, the name of the activity is called Mingle Activity. Mingle Activity. Remember, please, that's a very important expression that you have to keep in mind. Mingle Activity means when students walk around the classroom and talk to each other. Yes? Okay. So in the next part, we have another topics that we have been doing as well recently. So that's, yes, mingle activities, Giovanna, means when students start talking to each other. Yes, they start saying something to each other. They are communicating, okay, in order to get information. That's the name of the activity, mingle activities. All right? Yes, Giovanna? Okay, good. So now here we have the differences between a role played and a discussion. Most of us maybe get confused about them, but of course they are totally different. They are not the same. A role play, remember, is a technique that allows the students to explore realistic situations. So in other words, the students take a role, okay? Maybe the student might be a doctor and the other student might be the patient. So they are just taking roles, okay? They are acting according to the role that they have. It may be in a realistic situation because one person will be the doctor. So that person has to act as a doctor and the other one as the patient, you know? So that's a role play. But discussions are different. Discussion means you bring a topic and the students start talking about that. They are start giving their own ideas, their own opinions. They start listening and talking with their partners. So that's different because here they don't have to take any role. They just feel free to discuss, to say something about the topic. So they are totally different. Of course, they are techniques in order to improve, especially the speaking part, but they are totally different. Role playing, they have to act according to the role that they have to do. But discussion, the students are free to say something about a topic that the teacher is presenting in class. Okay? So do you understand the difference between role plays and discussions? Are you there? Do you have any questions? Okay, very nice. So if you don't have any questions so far, okay, let's go to our last slide for today. That's question time. So, during, yes, Giovanna, role play is more like acting, okay? The students act, but according to a role given by the teacher. But discussion, you just bring a topic and you start talking about the topic. So you will feel free to say something that you know about the topic. You don't need to add according to a role. So that's the difference. Okay? So now, question time. We have been together for almost 2 weeks. With me, just 5 classes, but with Mr. Andy Pulache, 3 classes, and with Mr. Johnny Vasquez, 3 classes as well. So I am here to answer any possible question that you have. If you have any questions about any skills studied during the whole 2 weeks, this is your chance, okay, to ask any possible question that you have, and together we are going to find out the solution for those doubts maybe that you may have. Okay, so do you have any questions, please, about a topic that maybe I presented, or maybe Mr. Andy Pulache presented, or Mr. Vasquez? So if you have any questions, please, we have like 10 minutes or 15 minutes more. So in order to clarify those, okay, questions that you may have. Come on, please. I would like to read from all of you, from Ana, Celso, Diana, Rosa, Giovanna, Lydia, Javier, Maria, Merly, Miguel, and Roxana. If you have any questions, please type them out, okay? And I will be very glad to answer them. So question number 1. Who is first? Nobody? Come on, please. I will be very glad to answer your questions. Okay, that's a good question. What's dictogloss? You have in your material about the things. Remember that this is a kind of dictation where how can I say? It's a kind of dictation that is the traditional one. So you use this dictation in order to identify if the students have a good spelling of the words. In other words, that's the traditional dictation that you can have with your students in order to check spelling. That's the meaning of dictogloss in this case. Okay, Anna? The traditional dictation, remember, to check spelling especially, right? Okay, thank you, Anna. Extra point for you. Anybody else, please? That's a good question, Diana Ventura. So what is a listening clause? You know, as you know, a clause is a space, right? So it means that in this kind of activities, there will be some missing words, okay? There will be some spaces that they need to be completed. So you or the students are going to be able to listen, and of course they need to complete those spaces. That's listening clause. Sometimes the students are going to complete, or maybe they will have different possibilities, okay, different choices, and they have to choose the best one for each space. So it's depending on the activity. But close means a space, so it means that something is missing there. Maybe the students have to complete by themselves, or they have different choices. Okay? Very good, Diana. Anybody else, please? Okay, Merly has a question. What is the difference between, okay, little by little, please. Let's answer Merly's questions first, okay? What is the difference between explicit and implicit meaning? Okay, what is the difference, students? You know, explicit meaning, it means that you will say or you will explain everything to your students, all right? You are going to give all the details that you come to your students, so they will understand maybe the word, the meaning of the word. But when we use implicit meaning, it means that maybe by using examples, you want your students to guess, okay, the meaning of the words, but not giving the definition, okay? So for us, I think that it's better to make students, okay, make students understand by using examples. Because if you just, give a word and you give the definition, you are acting like the dictionaries. So this is not a good way. I think that the students will learn better if you give examples. So they will immediately identify the meaning of the words by examples. So that's the difference. Explicit means when you give too many details about about a word or about the meaning, or you give the definition of the meaning of the word. But implicit means when you give some ideas, some clues, in this case, some examples, so the students by themselves will find out the meaning. Okay, Merly? Are you satisfied with the answer? Good. Okay, let's go now to Rosa Flores Palomino questions, okay? And the draft stops. Okay, draft stops. So what is a draft? I don't understand your question. What do you mean by that, Rosa Flores? Could you be more specific, please? Maybe you need to rewrite your question, please, Rosa, okay, to be clearer, because I don't get the idea. I don't get what you mean. For a while, I will answer Miguel Perez's questions. Could you tell me some strategies about listening skill? Okay, remember that we have different kind of strategies. You studied this part, I think, with Mr. Vasquez. One of the strategies that you can use, okay, with listening part, first of all, you need to use the guessing, okay, guessing strategy. What does it mean? Or guessing or prediction strategy. It means that before the listening part, you have, if you have maybe pictures in the student book about the listening, so you make students to brainstorm different words that they may listen to in the audio, so it will be easier for them to understand the listening better. Okay, that's prediction strategy that you can use. Another one is, for example, with listening, let me think. Apart from just making them predict, maybe you can brainstorm, okay? You can brainstorm different, maybe you can start asking some questions, okay? About the topic. So with that kind of activity, you can make if the student knows something from the listening, or maybe they will give you, as I told you before, a prediction about what the listening will be about. Another strategy here that you can use with your students is remember to use skimming and scanning. So you can make students to read quickly the questions and the possible answers. In that case, that is skimming, okay? And they will have a general idea about the things that they will be able to listen to. All right, Miguel? Celso has another question. If you want to get the students to develop speaking, what strategies is the best? So remember that for speaking, we have plenty of strategies. You can use role plays. I think it's the most common for your students and is the most exciting for them, because they really like acting, you know, they really like to be in a role, and I think it's one of the best ones. So you can use role play, you can use debates, you can use discussions, you can even use information gap activities, okay? You can use maybe, you know, the solving problem approach as well. So you can use many ideas, many kind of strategies, but of course, it's according to the student's level and it's according to the objective of the lesson. Okay, I have here two more questions. Maria Esther Vilches asks, when I use tune in. Okay, remember that when you use tune in, it's in the speaking part. Sorry, it's in the listening and speaking part as well. Okay, you use this when you want to activate or when you want your students listen to something. So that's a good kind of activity that you can use with them. Okay, you can use it with listening and speaking at the same time. Okay, tune in. So you make students work. Okay, Rosa Flores, here. Can you tell me, Placam, can you explain what is the meaning of drafts, stops? I read in the handout, but I don't understand. Okay, so remember that a draft, Rosa, is something that the student is doing. Okay, we say it's not the final work. A draft, it means a practice. Okay, this is especially in the written part. Okay, the students are start writing, so maybe in the first writing that they have is the draft. Okay, the writing is not completed. Maybe the writing has many mistakes, so that's a draft. So I mean, a draft stops, it means when you, of course, stopped doing the draft in order to check, okay, in order to check the information that you have written, in order to correct the possible mistakes before the presentation of the final work. That's especially in written part. Okay, that's the draft stuff. Okay, one more question. Just one more, please. Time is over. Do you have any other question? No problem, Rosa. That's draft. Remember, draft is just when the students practice. That's not the final work. In Spanish, we say like borradores. Okay, el borrador, that's the draft. Any other questions? Can I give you some examples for the examination? The examples of what? Remember that during the online exams that you are taking, okay, we wanted to make those examples meaningful for you. So according or as you see in the exams, in the oral, in the online exams, these kind of questions you have in the real exam, okay? Okay, so I'm going to finish answering the question with Ana Grinaldos, okay? What is the difference between, in this case it's not between, what is the difference among, because it's more than two, facilitator, mentor, and role model? Remember that facilitator, you are just there to give maybe some guide to your students, okay? Maybe teacher, how do you say that word? Okay, so maybe you will say that in English. So in that case, you are just helping the students. Not too much, but you are helping them. That's facilitator. Mentor is more than facilitator. Mentor means a person who checks, a person who gives advice to the students' performance. Maybe they make a presentation, so at the end of the class you are going to give a feedback. Maybe the things that they did well and the things that they did wrong. So in that case, you are helping them in a better way to improve, of course, in this case, their level of English. That's mentor, more than facilitator. Mentor evaluates, okay, the student's performance. And of course, role model, it means you are the model to the students because they imitate everything you do. If you pronounce in a way, so they will do the same. They will try to do the same as you are doing. That's the role model. So they do exactly what you do in class. Okay? So I'm so sorry to say that, but no problem, Anna. It was a pleasure to be with you during these maybe short classes, but I hope they would be meaningful for you. So as I told you yesterday, you have my personal information. So if you need any help, maybe in the future, if you need any advice, so you just feel free to contact me. And I will say thank you so much for being part of this intensive course. On behalf of the University of Lambayeque, I will say thank you to all of you. So it was a pleasure and good luck on Sunday. I'm pretty sure that you will do it great. So just try to study some, it's not important to know maybe a lot of words, a lot of definitions, but at least try to, when you read the definitions, try to put examples in your mind because this is what you are going to have in the real exam. Examples. So you need to find maybe solutions, okay, about the possible situations that you will face in the exam. Okay? Please let us know when you take an English course. Please, but always when you are. Thanks for everything. Okay, thank you, Merly. We are going to have maybe more English courses in the future. It was one of the first one. So, of course, we are going to be in contact. You have my personal email from the university, of course, and you have my mobile phone as well. So just feel free to contact me if you need any help. All right. Yes, we are going to have, in summer, I think that we are going to have like a course. Yes. But in this case, it's going to be face-to-face because, we need to learn more strategies, things like that. So everybody's learning. So I think that it's going to be a good way for us to share what we know because everybody knows something. And it's very important to share what I know and what you know. All right? So I need to go now. Thank you so much for your time. And once again, thank you very much for being part of this course. On behalf of the University of Lambayeque, this course is over and thank you so much for your participation. So goodbye, Ana, Celso, Diana, Rosa, Giovanna, Javier, Lydia, Maria, Merly, Miguel, and Roxana. It was a pleasure to be with you, and I hope you felt satisfied with our service. So if there is something that we need to improve it, again, feel free to write to us. So for next time, maybe we can do things better. Goodbye, Merly. Goodbye, Celso. Goodbye. It was a pleasure to be with you. See you soon. See you maybe next time. Okay, bye-bye. Okay, thank you, Rosa. So, you have my email address, so just write to me if you want to be involved in any possible course in the future, okay? See you soon, Diana, of course. And good luck on Sunday, please. I'm pretty sure you will do a great job. Okay? I hope to hear from you very soon. Goodbye. Good night.